If you're an iStock contributor and upload images, illustrations, or video to iStock, then DeepMeta software can help you improve your workflow. In this short video, we'll have an overview of working with DeepMeta, uploading, and viewing statistics. I'm Frankie de Meyer. Let's have a look. Open your browser and go to the DeepMeta website, deepmeta.com. Always go to the official source to download your software. Go to the download section and click the button appropriate for your operating system, Mac or Windows. We will do this demo on Windows. Open. And once the download has completed, you can double-click the installer. Which will open a wizard to guide you through the installation. You can typically just accept all the defaults being proposed. At this stage, the installer asks your approval to grant access to the internet for DeepMeta. Click yes. And that's it. The installation is finished. And DeepMeta software will open for the first time. Since this is the first time, it will ask for your credentials, your ESP credentials, to upload to iStock. You can click the Verify button, which will send a request for verification to see if your credentials are correct. It's always a good idea to do this. We will not go through all the possible preferences at this stage. Let me just point you to the most important ones. The upload region determines the server that will be used for uploading. Just select the location that's closest to you. Keyword language is very important as well, because whatever language you choose, that's the language that you should put as keywords for your keywords. The DeepMeta language is the UI, the language of the UI. You can switch to a different language for the user interface for DeepMeta. If I click OK, you will see that the user interface immediately switches to the different language. Click the Tool button to go back to the preferences, because we'll do this demo in English. Click OK to confirm. A quick overview of the user interface of DeepMeta. At the top is the toolbar, which is showing the current batch that's active. We have the button to add new files for upload. We have two buttons to add releases, model releases and property releases. And this button is for creating new batches. At the right, we have the input field to search through your data. And we have the tool button that opens a small menu to go to preferences and a few other options. At the left-hand side is the main menu for managing your batches, your submission batches, files for upload, your releases, model releases and property releases, to check the reviews of your files, to have an overview of the keywords that are used across all your files, go to the upload section, and then at the end we have a number of sections that are specific to statistics. We'll quickly have a look at those at the end of this demo. Let's create our first batch. Click the Create Batch button. Select the type of batch. All the files in this batch will have to be of this specific type. We'll choose image for the first batch that we'll create. Give it a meaningful name. This is just important for you. It doesn't really matter for iStock or for the reviewer. You can add a note for the reviewer, which is typically not needed, and you can add a brief code as well if the batch is a response to a particular brief. Click OK to confirm. And you can see that the batch has been created. It's empty at the moment, there are no files in it. Right, so we've added our batch, but it's still empty. Double click it, and you will wind up at the Files section with at the top the name of the current batch, Beach Shoot 2017. Let's add some images to the batch. There's two ways to add images. Either you can just click the Add Files button, go to your File Explorer and select one or more files that you want to add to your batch. These files are added, and while they're added, a number of things will happen. DeepMeta will extract any IPTC information that's present in the JPEG files, and it will also contact the iStock servers to have any keywords that might be present, to have these keywords looked up. So this was the first way to add files to the batch. A second way is to use drag and drop. We can just open File Explorer and then select a number of files and drag them on DeepMeta. That's just an alternative way to do it. The files will be added to your currently selected batch. You can see here we now have 5 files present in the batch. If we look at the error column, we see that there are 3 errors. At the right-hand side, you see a preview of the information for the file. And you can see that there are a number of issues that prevent it from being uploaded. This kind of makes sense because we didn't add descriptions in the IPTC metadata for the file. There's no country specified and there's not enough keywords. So let's just pick the first file, double click it, which will open the file details panel where we can fill out anything that's still missing. The title was extracted from the JPEG file, so that's okay. We still need to add a description. The creation date was extracted from the EXIF metadata of the JPEG file, which is fine. We still have to select the country. If you're an exclusive contributor, you can nominate the file for Signature Plus. You can add a brief code. You can select one or more content warnings. Since this is a shot with people in it, we'll have to add model releases. We haven't got any model releases in the system yet, so we'll just click Model. I have 2 releases prepared. These are added, but you can see that there's a red rectangle here with a message saying one or more releases have incomplete information. Let's double click one of them to have a look at what's wrong. As you can see here, the release was loaded correctly from the JPEG file, but the birth date is not specified. iStock demands a birth date to be entered for each of the model releases. As soon as we complete it, we see that there are no more issues with the release anymore. If you like, you can specify the gender and ethnicity if you want to put time in that, but this is not a must. This is not obliged. Let's do this for the second file as well. Let's add the birth date for that one as well. And there you go. You see we now have 2 releases attached to this file, and the check mark is green, which means that there's no more errors. At the right hand side is the keyword panel, and if you like, you can rearrange the user interface a little bit to suit your needs if you want a bigger, smaller thumbnail, things like that. You can see that we have 4 keywords that were in the IPTC data of the JPEG file, and they were automatically recognized by the controlled vocabulary of Getty. This one has a number of options, so we just select the option that's most appropriate. Doors. We'll add a few more keywords. The city where this picture was taken is called, and I would also like to add something like friendship. Click OK. The keywords are sent to the iStock service for verification. We can see that friendship was immediately recognized as a valid term in the vocabulary. The name of the town was not Blankenberge, but I will click it anyway. It's not in the controlled vocabulary, which is indicated here by the small asterisks and by the lighter color, which means that the keyword will not be it's not recognized by the controlled vocabulary. It will not be automatically translated to different languages. However, it will be searchable, so it's still important if there are certain keywords that you find not present in the controlled vocabulary, but you have very strong feelings for adding them, then you just add them anyway, and they will be recognized as non-controlled vocabulary terms. Let's click OK, and you will see that now there are no more errors indicated for this specific image. We might now do exactly the same thing for all the other images, but there's a much easier way to go about it. We right-click this first image, we click Copy, or we just do Control-C, and then we select the other images and we paste the information to those images. Here we get a pop-up asking us what information we would like to see copied. We want the description, the keywords. We also want the releases to be copied initially, the country and the date. Click OK, and you can see that the other images are fine. Now we can just go and have a look at each one of them and maybe fine-tune them. For instance, in this shot, there's only one of the girls present, so I can just adapt this specific assignment of releases, and in this case I might want to add a specific keyword, jumping. Okay, so you can fine-tune each of these images, which is going to make the work a lot quicker if you use the copy-paste feature of DeepMeta. So what we've done so far is we've created one batch. If we go to the batch section, we see one batch. It has 5 files in it. And if we double click it, or we just go to the files section, we see the files that are present in this batch. We see there are no more errors. So we're basically ready to upload these images. Go to the upload section and you see that these 5 files are ready. The status is to upload, which means they're ready to be uploaded. We can verify the number of releases that are present. If there's still something wrong in this screen, we can still double click and correct it. It's not needed at this point. And the next step would be to select these files and move them to the upload queue. The upload queue is the list at the right-hand side. It's always a good idea to upload as many files as you can for one particular batch at one go, because that will group the files as one unit, which will be better for the customers, because if they see one particular file of yours, they might want to see different files of the same shoot. And the iStock site will group files that have been uploaded around the same time. We'll just select 2 now here for this demo, otherwise it would just take too long, but typically I would be selecting all 5 files. So you select, you can move files back and forth between the left-hand list, which means the list of all the new files that are ready for uploading, and then the actual queue at the right-hand side. Once we're ready with putting the files in the queue, we can start upload, and that's going to start the upload process. Essentially, this is something that happens in the background. You can perfectly go to other sections in the software, create some new batches, if you like, modify some files, etc. You can always go back to the upload section to see how the process is going. At the bottom of the screen is the history list for uploads, and you can see here the history of the different things that have happened. You can sort it. You can sort the list by clicking any of the headers. And you can see here that the two files have been uploaded. We'll now just right-click one of the files and select View on ESP site. This will open your browser, and it will go to the batch page for the file where it was uploaded. And you can see here indeed that these two files are present with all the keywords that we have created, with the specific non-controlled vocabulary keyword for the city where this took place, etc. Let's now quickly go back to the batch section and create two more batches of a different kind. First of all, let's click on the Create Batch button and select this time Illustration. If I don't fill in anything here and just click OK, we'll just get a default name. Double click this batch, which is empty at the moment, and we will add a few illustrations here. Now, what's special for illustrations is that these consist of two files. There's the EPS file, which is the actual illustration, and then there's also a raster file for a JPEG. It's also possible to have illustrations that are just JPEGs. The way that DeepMeta will match the two is it will just look at the name, and if the name is the same, it will consider these to be one unit, to be one single upload. So I've selected 4 files here, which are 2 couples. One is a couple cat and dog, the EPS file and a JPEG file, and the other one is also a couple EPS and JPEG. So open it, and you will see that 2 files are added here. If we go to the history, we see that we see some details here. So the history panel is just showing everything that you've done, added, uploaded, etc. in DeepMeta since you last started it. And you can see that the first illustration has combined these 2 files and considered it to be one illustration. And then the second one has combined these 2 files and has considered them also to be one illustration to be uploaded. Okay, so that's one interesting thing to know about illustrations. Let's now create a video batch. Select video. Go to the batch section. You see we have this video batch here. We double click it, add a file, and I will be adding 2 files here. Let's say these 2. These will be added to DeepMeta. It will look at the metadata and extract any keywords, descriptions, etc. that might be present there. What's special about videos is that if you double click to edit the details for the video, you will see that there is a poster timecode being displayed here. And this is important because it is this particular frame that will be selected for the preview images, for the preview, the thumbnail image at the website. So whenever a buyer is arriving at the page for your file, that's the image that they will see as a thumbnail. So it's very important to select an appropriate frame to serve for your thumbnail. There's not a lot of action here, but let's say, for instance, that we want the girl to play the piano as a reference for the entire video. I'm just going to open, and you can see that the thumbnail is being updated immediately. This file, what's specific about this one is that there was already a poster frame selected in the file itself, and DeepMeta will read it, will recognize it, and will say, okay, this is what you selected as a poster frame. I will respect it, but if you like, of course, you can still change it to a different frame in the image, like this one, for instance. You will see that the thumbnail immediately updates. That's it for uploading. Let's now have a quick look at some extra capabilities that are built into the lists. We see that we're in the Files section, and at the top, this particular batch was selected. We can select a different batch and then see all the files that are present in that batch, or we can just delete the selection of a specific batch or clear the selection of a particular batch altogether, which will show us all the files across all batches. At the top, we have a number of filter buttons which allow you to just see a certain type of image. For instance, this button will show creative images. If I click it to disable the button, I will see all files that are not creative images. If I just want to see the video files, for instance, I can just make sure that on the video filter button is present, and I will just see the video files. Just turn them on. The same here for the status. If I want to see the files that are, for instance, still to be uploaded, I can deselect all these, and then I can see the files that are still to be uploaded. Or waiting, the files that are waiting for revision, the files that are already active in your portfolio, etc. This slider allows you to have wider or higher rows or not, which means you can just fine-tune this a little bit. And these are pages, which means that there's a certain number of columns selected here at the moment for display. There's a second page where you can have different columns displayed. There's a third page where you can have different columns displayed, and you can just choose whatever is being shown here yourself. For instance, if you don't want the nominated button, the nomination for S+, if you don't want it shown, you can just right-click the header and then remove this column. If you want to add another column of your preference, you can insert new column and say, okay, I also want to have, for instance, the file name, the original file name that the image had, which might be interesting for your reference. So this way you can fine-tune each of the 3 pages for your file list. The same goes for your batches and for all the other lists. So you can fully customize the interface of DeepMeta for your specific workflow. Now, this is all great for uploading new content to iStock, but many of you will already have a portfolio present, will already have files that you uploaded to iStock through the new ESP interface, or even through the old iStock website. And it's perfectly possible to pull in all this information, your entire portfolio. You can fetch this by launching a start synchronization. What this will do is this will contact the ESP service, and it will fetch all the information for you for all the files that you've uploaded, the latest status, etc. It will also download any sales statistics that you already have, so that you can use these for offline scrutiny in DeepMeta. I will just let it run here because it's now going to pull in my entire portfolio. This will take a little while the first time. I suggest when you do this, when you do the synchronization the first time, you just let it run until completion. It will download all information from the ESP service. It will also download all the thumbnails. Just let it run until it finishes. And the next times that you will do a synchronization after that will be a lot quicker. Synchronization has finished, and you can see that on top of all the file data that was downloaded, there's also 13 royalty statements that have been downloaded. At this point, the statistics sections at the bottom become a lot more interesting. We can see that the statements have been downloaded with some information on each one of them. Sales, individual sales can be verified at this stage. Statistics are available in the form of charts. I will not go into great detail. In fact, I will not go into any detail here at this stage, because we have a separate video on the statistics section. If we go to the Files section and we show all batches, and for instance, we select all the active files here, you can see active, then when we switch to one of the other pages, you can see that these are prepared to have some interesting columns that are related to statistics. For instance, if we look at this one and we sort it, then we can see that, for instance, the top file, the top income comes from this specific file. We can sort by downloads. We can filter as well. For instance, we can filter files that have the word Brussels in their keywords or title or description, and then we can just view the statistics for those as well. So there's a lot of possibilities there. There's even a separate section for keywords, which is relatively new, and this is showing all the keywords. And you can see here, you can select the actual keywords that are in the controlled vocabulary, or you can also check to see the candidates. That's the ones that have an asterisk behind it, which means that those keywords are not in the controlled vocabulary. Let's just go for the vocabulary terms at this stage, and then we can also filter. For instance, on the income, and we can see that the top income comes from a number of generic keywords, but also keywords or files that have people in them, child in this case, lifestyle, Europe, etc. Of course, this is for the portfolio that I'm using for demo. For your portfolio, this will be different. You can see some additional information at the right-hand side, the revenue per download, per image, etc. You can select multiple files as desired. That's it for this quick demo on the capabilities of DeepMeta software. There's a number of additional videos available that go deeper into specific aspects of the software. We'll create a few more specialized videos in the future as well. If you have any questions or if you'd like to know more, first of all, I advise you to look at the Getting Started guide, which will provide you with all the details on all the capabilities. You can just read it from one section to another if you like. There's a lot of useful information in there. So I definitely suggest you to do this. You can, of course, also contact us for any questions, suggestions for improvements, etc. Thank you.